Hello and welcome. It's always a pleasure coming your way with these video lectures. I appreciate the fact that it's not so easy. It's not been so easy on most of you. We are only trying to catch up, overwhelmed with other assignments, but I hope you are adjusting accordingly. The intention is to make sure you acquire some skill sets, helpful skill sets that you will use throughout this journey to make you an independent person in terms of compiling your reports, manipulating Excel fundamentally, and of course making your presentation. So if you're watching this session, then most definitely you have completed Microsoft Office Word, of course, for our word processor session. And so in this session, we're going to jump straight into the point. We are going to talk about the Microsoft Excel. Our focus is generally on the spreadsheet, and I hope we're able to accomplish sufficiently. This is just the introduction, the beginning of about two more modules, or about 3 more. Yes, so we hit the nail on the head. In this session, we're going to talk about the Microsoft Excel as the main tool for conversation. We're going to try and cover topics such as exploring the Excel environment, entering data, editing data, copying and moving cell data, entering formulas using AutoSum, copying formulas with relative cell references, one part I'm particularly interested in. We'll try and look at formulas with absolute references. So initially we made mention of the relative references, and we're talking about absolute references. I will explain what all of this entails by way of demonstration, of course. Entering formulas with multiple operators, inserting a function and switching worksheet views, and of course choosing print options. Okay, so if you heard me clearly, I made mention of the fact that the general scope is a spreadsheet and not necessarily Microsoft Office Excel. It's just one example. Microsoft Office Excel is just an electronic spreadsheet. By default, any spreadsheet should allow you to perform numeric calculation. This spans across Google Sheets. I'm sure most of you have heard of it. There are several others that are known to people in different spaces, and they are used for different purposes. But just to highlight on these 2 simple examples you can easily come across is the Google Sheet and of course the Microsoft Excel. All of them are electronic spreadsheets program, as long as it allows you to perform numeric calculations. Now you have a lot of sheets which forms what we refer to as a workbook. Every one of these sheets is a spreadsheet, and that's what we refer to as a worksheet. So a spreadsheet is called a worksheet, and these individual worksheets, they get stored up together and form what we refer to as a workbook. Okay, so what are some of the purposes of a spreadsheet, and for that matter Excel, for which reason we are having this particular conversation right now? Well, it should be able to help us perform calculations. It should be able to help us present values graphically. We should be able to generate reports. Whichever program you are studying in the university, you at one point in time will have to analyze some data and graphically present this to your audience, and so it becomes very necessary to undergo this particular study. You should be able to generate reports, like we said. You should be able to organize your data, analyze your data, and of course create what if data scenarios. We'll look at a few as best as we possibly can as far as this fundamental session will permit us, and as far as the curriculum will allow us for this particular semester. What are the general advantages of using Excel? Well, you're able to enter data much more quickly. No matter how fast you can write, you can never compete against Microsoft Excel. You're able to recalculate data easily, as quickly as possible. We'll demonstrate all of that. You should be able to recalculate data and perform what if analysis, as we mentioned of earlier. You should be able to change the appearance of your information, create charts, share your information, and possibly build on previous work. All of these are the many benefits or advantages you can get from Microsoft Excel. So how does it look like? Let's take a look. So as I've always done, you click on the start button on your computer, You can select the application right from your pin sections or go to your all applications and search for it. As I always do, I would always search, type the application, and it will open for me. As you can see, there we have it. This is the Microsoft Excel window. We call it the window entirely. So let's acquaint ourselves with certain portions of the tool, shall we? Let's acquaint ourselves some portions. So this portion, this top left corner here, is the title of the workbook. By default, it is labeled book 1. It's an Excel application. This is what we call it, quick access toolbar. You can add more tools which you quickly wish to access right from here. We have of course, so this is the title bar. Let me leave it there. This is the title bar. On top of it is my account, which most of you equally have there because of your license from the university. The minimize and then the maximize and then the close buttons are all there. Those of you on the Mac OS is on the left side of your window. Regardless, we have something similar to look at. Okay, so that's not anything complicated. The autosave is also active, but once you engage this, it cut across actually Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Anytime you engage it, it will be saving your files in your OneDrive. But since most of us have been saving directly on a local hard disk, I don't necessarily enable this unless I'm sharing the file with somebody or something. Okay, right. So that is for the autosave button. Since we've gone through Word, access to this ribbon is nothing new to anybody. From this left margin to this very last point of the display view is nothing complicated. You have these menu tabs from home, insert, draw, page layout, formulas, data, review, view, help. You may not have Acrobat. If you do, fine, but it's a plugin. And the rest. Each of these tabs gives you a set of tools which have been grouped, separated with horizontal lines, or vertical lines, sorry. So we have the undo group, we have the clipboard group, we have the font group on the home tab, alignment group, number group, up to the very end. Okay, so this is nothing complicated either. Then we have what other options do we have here? So each of these tabs, as usual, leads you to do one event or the other. We'll come to some of them as we make progress. So if you want to insert any object, any item of in any form, add-ins, charts, spark lines, etc., in your Excel window, your insert tab is your go-to place. If you want to draw anything manually, of course, those of you with touch screens and other gesture devices that accompany your PC, you can make use of these too. The page layout will define how the presentation will eventually look like in terms of printout or sharing the document you've worked on. Formulas is another feature we're going to come across. We said you should be able to perform calculations also on in a spreadsheet, and so this is your go-to tab with a host of other tools that we can take advantage of. You have the data to determine the data sources, review, view, help, and Acrobat, of course, right? So this is just to highlight on some of the essential features of the Microsoft Excel. We are not actually done yet. We have other portions that we can talk about. If you look closely here, let me zoom in. You see that the region here in this section, unselected section, is quite faint, or should I say grayed, is grayed out. But the region that is selected is green, as you can see here, okay, at all the rectangular edges. This is what we refer to as a cell. A cell. Now, a cell is formed at the intersection of a column and a row. Okay, so this Excel, the B column here goes all the way down. This 2 here crosses all the way to the right, and the section of the 2 is what we refer to as a cell. And this cell has its own address. If you heard me right, I said that it is the intersection of the column and then the row. They all have reference labels. So the column is called B, and then the row is called 2. So if you want to reference or identify the address of this cell, it is cell B2. So that when I go to the Excel window, I can know that I'm exactly at cell B2. Now, how do we also confirm this? We have a portion on the menu tab which we refer to as the cell name box, which displays the active cell address. So this is the active cell. This is not an active cell. you make a cell active by selecting or clicking, or what should I say, left click in that particular cell just once. Left click just once and it is active. So an active cell is the cell with all the marked borders, all the marked borders. So a cell in which you are working is all referred to as an active cell. And then the cell name box refers you to the address or the location of the cell, or the cell in which you are working on. So that's your active cell. We also have above here what referred to as the formula bar. The formula bar. Okay. Now this allows you to enter or edit data in your respective active cells. In any active cell, let me put it that way. If you want to make any input in any active cell, this is your go-to place. There are other approaches of getting this done, and we'll get to them as we make progress. We have the tabs. So below here you see sheet 1 by default is the only active tab. If you recall, we indicated that independent worksheets forms a workbook. So we can have several other worksheets coming together to form this workbook 1. By default you have just one. If you want to add more, you click on this plus button here. By default, once you move the cursor to the addition button, it gives you a description of what the button actually does. So it says new sheet. So when I click on the new sheet, it's supposed to add another cell to my work for me. Okay, so it works seamlessly like that. It shouldn't be anything too complicated. So as and how I click it, I have multiple sheets appearing. Whenever I say click, I mean the left click. Left click. Please don't let it confuse you. Great. So you can equally close all of them, just like I'm deleting. Right click, delete. Right click on the sheet, delete. Right click on the sheet and delete. So this is the sheet tabs, as I've just made mention of. We also have the status bar. So as you can see from down here, we have ready. That means the window is ready, something is ready to happen. Accessibility, we are good to go. If you engage other features, we can enable all of, just right click on the status bar and you can turn on other status information that you may be interested, depending on what exactly you may be working on. And this cut across all the Microsoft Office suite products. Okay, take notice of that. So it provides a brief description of the active command or the task in progress, and that is the status bar. Sorry. Then we have we have the various views and displays we can talk about. We have the normal view, the page layout view, and then we have the page break preview. These are various forms of view that we can use or have access to as far as this window is concerned. By default, we are always on the normal view. If you want your page layout, which gives you a picture of how your printout is supposed to look like, then you engage it and it will tell you, it will give you a view of how your papers are going to be broken down per the widespread nature of the Excel sheet. And then of course the page break preview would have limited you to a region of contents. Okay, a region of content. We'll demonstrate this as we make progress. Now, as you can see from here, the column starts from A, B, C, D, and so on and so forth. It does not go endlessly as if you click on this button, you keep seeing it changing at the top here. Nope, it has a limit. It has a limit. So, what is the last limit? The last column is column XFD. I quickly moved there. I pressed the control key on my keyboard. Whilst holding it, I added the right arrow key on my keyboard and it takes me. So you have to select the column first, any column at all. Hold the control key and then press on the right arrow on your keyboard and it will take you to the very last column. And beyond this, you can't move any further. So this is the last column you can ever get in Excel. This is one of the limitations. That's the reason why we don't use Excel to replace a database for a bigger project. Okay, same way we also have the last column. So I just select any row. We have the last row. Doesn't just go endlessly 58, 59 up to 100. No, there is an end to that. Same way, hold the control key on your keyboard, select one row, of course, hold the control key on your keyboard and press the arrow key down and it will take you to the last row. So the last row is the 1,048,576. And you can't get any more rows below this. That is also an expression of the limitation that we have with Microsoft Excel. which you also need to know. Okay, now if you observe closely, you notice that I am able to minimize my view and also increase my view. These adjustments is what referred to as zoom out and zoom in. I hold the control key on my keyboard and then I use the scrolling button on my mouse. Let me change my view so that I can show it to you. Scrolling button on my mouse, as you can see from here. I hope it's still viewable. Yes, this one over here, this one over here. So as I hold the control key and then show that particular screen, you are able to tell exactly how these changes are happening. So I hold the control key and I use the scroll button to zoom in and zoom out. This feature can equally be adjusted just behind my image on your display. We have a section called the zoom. So you can either use the minus button to zoom out or the plus button to zoom in, or use the gauge to regulate the movement up and down depending on how you want to view this. Okay, so let's make progress. One trick I want to highlight here is, since we are unable to exhaust the features of all these tools that we are doing, one trick I can show you here is that all you need to do about a tool, if you don't know or you can't Google it up, just move your cursor to the tool in your working window, and Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Office suite will tell you what that tool is meant for. So wrap, for example, I move the cursor to this wrap text button and it's labeled wrap extra long text into multiple lines so you can see all of it. We'll demonstrate some of these things as we make progress, but that is one trick. Just move the cursor to the tool and then you find it. I know there is a lot you are consuming right now, especially those of you who have barely touched the computer before, and this requires of you to master it under, say, 24 to 36 hours and so on and so forth. But I hope you give this the time. The important thing here is acquiring the skill set. Okay, right. Okay, so let's make the needed progress. Let's make the needed progress, shall we? Now, if we want to make an entry, let's try and make some entries into our data. I'll use a template that I have ready here. As you can see, let me zoom in so that you can view it carefully and see the data. So if you need to make an input into Excel, all you need to do is just select the cell. Okay, you can change or edit the content of an active cell at any point in time. There's nothing that limits you, but there are three ways of getting this done. If it is your first time, if it's not your first time, you already know this. Okay, you can just double click on the cell, because you see, one thing I need you also take notice of is just have a look at the cell, the mouse, or should I say the pointer. Let me call it the pointer. Just look closely at the pointer. It's one critical thing you need to get used to in Microsoft Excel. Depending on the look of the pointer, depending on the look of the pointer, you are able to perform a particular action. I take it again. Depending on the look of the pointer, you are able to perform a particular action. It's not like the mouse moving in the arrowed form as you are seeing up here. When I transition to the formula bar, it turns into an input or an I-beam. When I move into the cell, it turns into a cross with some superimposed dark shades behind it. Okay, so I can select any cell at will, and that is fine. However, if I need to make an input or edit a cell, all I need to do is double click in the cell. That is one way. Double click, and then you see the I-beam blinking like that, as you can see from here. I hope you can see. Another option is to come to this formula bar, having selected the active cell, and then make my input from here. Or I can just go to the cell and then start typing. So for example, let's put some content in here. Let's assume we want to call, we have some states or cities in the US. Let's add some more to it. We call this one, say, Vancouver. And then let's make an input. So as you can see, let me just undo what I just did. So this, by way of selection, is there. I can just go ahead and start typing Vancouver. I use the third option. I did not double click. I did not go to the formula bar. All I did was just select the cell and start making an input. The other option we said was double click. The input I-beam is engaged, so I can make an input there and say probably put another value in here, 20. Another option we gave was that you can select the cell, okay, and go to the formula bar and make an input there as well. So for example, if I put in 130, I made this entry in the formula bar, and that has also equally reflected in the selected cell. Okay, so I'll go ahead and add some values to the other cells. That's it. That is it. I hope this makes sense. So once you engage in any of these three activities, Excel will switch to edit mode when you are making cell entries, and that is very important for you to take notice of. I hope that is okay. Right. If you still have any further questions, please do not hesitate to draw my attention in any means possible in any of the options that I have made available to you. Now, another thing that I need to draw your attention to is autofill options that we have in Microsoft Excel. Autofill options. So for example, of course, I will explain some of these things. I wish to, we notice we have row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. Maybe January to March, April to June, July to September, October to December is not entirely clear to somebody, and this document is going to fall into his hands. So I want to explain that this is quarter 1, this is quarter 2, this is quarter 3, this is quarter 4, for example. Okay, I can select the cell above which I wish to have this new cell appear, this new row to appear. So I just right click and then I insert a cell. So what it literally does is that it pushes down every other cell that is below. And initially this was occupying row 4, but once I right click and I insert, it replaces row 4. I hope this makes sense. Just right click and then insert a new row and it happens. You can equally do same for inserting a new column in between other columns. We'll be doing more of this as we progress. Now my emphasis here is on autofill options. Autofill options. So let's assume I have to write here, say quarter 1. This one has to be quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. Imagine you writing more of these or many more other things, just imagine you typically will probably have to come and select the cell and type in quarter 2. So for example, you probably have to come here and write quarter 2, come here. I'm using actually the tab to move from one cell to then the adjacent cell. So if you are wondering how I'm getting there, I like more of the keys than to even go to the mouse approach. Then I'll write here, say quarter 3. Sorry, I will go back again. I use shift and the tab key again to go back from the cell I have moved on to back to where I was before. Okay, so I'll go ahead and write this one, say quarter 3, and then this one, say quarter 4. Now you might not have seen this. Regardless my typing speed, this has lost me so much time. I can't believe I spent significant seconds I could have used to do other things to type out all of this. So you may want to go through an approach like this. This is where the autofills come in. Once again, look at the active cell. Is the quarter cell. All the regions are marked green. Now watch the pointer here. Watch the pointer closely. Now as I move the pointer to the right bottom corner of the cell, it turns into a black cross, a black cross with same distance from the center, up, left, right, and down. Once I'm in this particular position, I'm able to drag, click, of course, left click on my mouse or my touchpad, click and hold. Clicking means not clicking and hold, doesn't mean click and release. Click and let your hand firmly remain on it, and then drag to your destination to fill out either your row, your column, or any continuous set of cells of your own choice, above, below, left, right, center, whatever. So watch carefully what I'm doing. I move closely along the row to the destination of my choice and see what Excel autofill will do for me. Bam! what I had to sit down and type quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4 is done. Let me repeat the same process again. The green marked edges of the active cell, I'm mentioning it again. The cross sign, the white cross sign, as we can see with the pointer, turns into something else once we move the pointer to the right bottom corner of the active cell. And Excel, and we click and hold and drag to our destination. And then Microsoft Excel will intelligently reproduce the quarter by way of copying it, and then adjust the values that were against it, 1, 2, and adjust the number 1 and move to 2, 3, and 4 to the destination accordingly. This is what we refer to as autofill option. If you don't want this and you want, say, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 to appear across all the cells, there's a way to go about it. Okay, if you move copy yourself from quarter 1 to the last end, which is quarter 4, and you don't like what you are seeing, you can choose the autofill options from here, and then either choose any of these options that we have available here. We have the duplicate, we have the unique, we have the equal to, and then we have the clear. Is that okay? So we can do a whole lot of these, and once you have these options selected, okay, once it autofills the work for you, okay, let me drag it and do it again. Right, nice one. We have the charts, which you can generate automatically. We have the totals, which you can generate automatically. We have the tables, which you can generate automatically. We have the spark lines. These are options that you can take advantage of. But the important thing is the autofill from quarter 1 to quarter 4. All right. I hope you have made sense out of this. You have made sense out of this. Let's make progress. So there are so many ways we can see the pointer, which I wish to draw your attention to. We can see the pointer something like this. As you can see, I'm going to zoom in so that we can have an up close. So the normal view of the pointer is what we discussed the first time, selecting a cell or a range or indicating that we are in a ready mode. The full crossed deep line, which we use to copy cell contents or a series into adjacent cells, is what we refer to as the fill handle. The I-beam, as I made mention of, edits cell contents in an active cell or a formula bar. We have the move, we have the copy, and then we have the column resize. So depending on exactly what you are dealing with, you will get these features working for you, and the pointer to appear in any of these manner to make your work quite easier and simple. Okay, we just spoke about autofills, or copying a series of replicating from one cell to a series of adjacent cells or a range of cells connected together. But you may not necessarily want to go through that. You may want to actually copy, paste, and do other things across different cells. That option is also available to you. So you can actually copy or move data within worksheets or even between worksheets. Nothing stops you from achieving this. So basically, what you can do is, so let me go straight to the demo. What you can do is, if for example I have 2 sheets, okay, so this is sheet 1, this is sheet 2. Sheet 2 has nothing on it. How I zoomed in sheet 1 has nothing to do with what is happening in sheet 2. So that's the most important thing. One other important thing you should take notice of. Okay, now I can copy and paste, I can copy, I can cut, I can copy, I can paste anything that I want from one sheet to the other. I can use the fill handle in the right lower corner of the active cell as we demonstrated. We can drag and drop as well. For example, I can copy the content of probably just this row. I just select straight from right to the right end to the range of cells that I'm interested in. Just copy, or come to the ribbon and then go to the clipboard group under the home tab and then select copy or cut, any of them. Cut will literally remove what is there. Copy will literally maintain what is there and just create a copied version. I can either paste within the same cell we have several paste options. Let me take advantage of this to just highlight them. We have the paste, the normal paste, which carries along all the formatting tools that have been accompanying the text. We have just formatting, pasting only values, only values. So for example, if my formatting here is say yellow, and I copy this cell, for example, and then I come here and paste this cell, the yellow vanishes. The formatting I placed there vanishes. However, if I come and paste only values, my yellow formatting stays there. The shades of the cell is maintained. Only the text is put in there. Even the text is taken upon itself, the default font type, default font size, etc. So there are several paste options. You can have several paste options. This cut across Microsoft Word and Excel. Just copy or cut. You can paste everything with the formatting, paste only values, paste only formulas, which is exclusive to Excel, and then several other paste options that we can make mention of. So you can take notice of this. So that's another option. Now, what actually happens when you copy or cut something? What actually is happening is that you have engaged the clipboard. You have engaged the clipboard. Now, to make your clipboard active for you to see, you hold the Windows key. You hold your Windows key on your keyboard. Okay. You hold your Windows key on your keyboard and then add Vim to it. Hold your Windows key on your keyboard and add the key Vim to it to activate your clipboard group. So this is my clipboard group. Hold the Windows key on your keyboard and add Vim to it. You see everything you have copied over the period in your clipboard. Mine is for me to see. You don't have to see my clipboard. Yes. Okay, so let's make the needed progress, shall we? Right. Okay. Okay, so it's just a slight technical glitch, but it's all part of the fun. So we'll get over that briefly. Today you've seen some of the glitches I get during my demonstrations, so this is all good. Okay, so I guess I may have to use a different approach to get this to work. Okay. I hope this works this time. Okay, so sorry about this, the short break, the short disruption. Had a technical issue here, which thankfully is beyond us now. Okay, let's continue. All right, so that is about the clipboard. So basically what the clipboard does is it temporarily stores information that you copy or cut, and so you can paste an item from the clipboard, and all you need to do is specify what you want and where you want it to be in which format you want it to be, as well as I've earlier on stated. Okay, great. Now, if you want to access your clipboard on the Microsoft Office environment, we have the clipboard group right here. Clipboard group, as you can see from here. All the paste options that we saw are evident here as well. All the paste options that we came across are evident over there as well. I hope my display hasn't changed. Something has changed here. Okay, so okay, right, so we are fine again. Great. I'm going to leave this uncut. You can skip the section if it is frustrating you or delaying your view. Great. So that is about the clipboard. Like I said, the clipboard group is right at the top right left corner here on the home tab. The paste options we had earlier on are all available here as well. So you don't necessarily just have to come and right click on your destination to have access to these. You can come to the clipboard group and then leverage on the tools that are available here. Quickly, let's talk about the formulas, shall we? Formulas are actually equations in a worksheet. They are equations in a worksheet. When you are creating calculations in Excel, it's important to know where the formula should be, know exactly what cells and arithmetic operations are needed, create the formulas with care, and use these references rather than values. Use cell references rather than values. And then also try to determine what calculations will be needed. These are very important things that we are going to focus on throughout this particular journey. There are a lot of arithmetic operations we can talk about, but we can only limit ourselves to a handful of them. We have the additions, we have the subtraction, we have the subtraction or negation, we have the multiplication, and of course, as you can see from here, these are typical examples of these operations. We have the division, we have the percentage, and we have the exponent. Okay, it is very, very important to identify with all of these features as far as arithmetic operators are concerned. So let's demonstrate this by entering some formulas, shall we? We'll enter a couple of them and then we'll see how we can make progress. So for example, what we have here, let me zoom out a bit. Okay, so we have some IT postings, position postings that are available in these various cities. I'm giving you a picture of just an imaginary picture of the content we have on the Excel sheet right now. In Boston, we have 143 postings that were made in first quarter, 135 in second quarter, 184 in third quarter, and of course 162 in the fourth quarter. That is what this data is saying. So if we wish to know the total number of postings that were made available within the year, within a particular year, we didn't define any year here, what do? Literally, I mean, your basic math will tell you that add 143 to 135 to 184 and then add it to 162, and then the total will reflect the total number of postings that were put together. So this is basic mathematics. We are saying that Excel, a spreadsheet, should allow you to perform calculations. So how do we get this done? How do we do it here? And I mean, how do we progress? Now, to enter a formula, you have to start with an equal to sign. So let me begin with some information for you to take notice of. You always have to start with an equal to sign. We usually call this the formula prefix. Formula prefix. Without an equal to sign, Excel would not interpret the input in that particular active cell as being a formula. This is very important. And then you proceed by using calculation operators, okay, and then add new arithmetic operators. You can also at some point use comparison operators. We have the text concatenation operators, and of course we have the reference operators. We'll look at all of these, as many as we possibly can. So let's proceed to bring into practice the summation I was just talking about here. So we say that we should precede it with an equal to sign. So I input in here, maybe let's assume I want the sum of all of this to appear in this particular cell. I hit the equal to symbol. Excel is notified that a formula is proceeding. Great. Now, I could have typed the values as I literally can see, as most of you would have done. You know, pick your calculator and input 143 plus 135. You know, even if it was on your PC, you could you could just trigger your calculator button right from here, say calculator, and then it pops up for you and you start doing your maths, you know, as some of you would have done. 135 plus 143, you know, in that particular order, and it will do the math for you. No two ways about it. If you have a keypad on your PC, you just go and type these values there and it gets done. But no, that is not what we are going to do. We are doing the Excel way. So start with an equal to sign to trigger the formula. Select the cell in which these values are contained, one after the other. I'm going to show you two approaches. Cell B5, which is the reference cell for this cell value here. Then we indicate the arithmetic operation plus. Select the next cell. And Excel is intelligent to vary the colors for you without your choice. And it was still just so you understand what exactly is happening. Add another plus. Add this to it. Add another plus. And then add the last cell. All I'm doing is, after the because I introduced the equal to symbol, I select Excel, introduce an arithmetic operator, I select the next cell relevant to my operation, and so on and so forth, repeatedly. And it will make reference to them. So cell B5 plus cell C5 plus cell B5 plus cell E5. And this will lead me to the outcome of what I want to add. So once I've finished with my formula, one thing I need to also let you take notice of is look right up here in the address bar. I'm sure you have seen the cursor right there in the address bar. Sorry, look right up there in the formula bar, and you see the same thing I typed in here repeating itself there. You go ahead and press the enter on the keyboard or the return key, and it gives us the total sum of these continuous cells. If you want to verify, all we have to do is double click and it will highlight all the cells that have formed part of the operation leading to the value or the answer that we see over there. Is that okay? Another way to get this done is that if this approach with which you select one cell at a time and introduce an arithmetic operation is intended for instances where maybe I want to add value of cell B5 plus the value of cell C6 plus maybe the value of cell so let me put a plus symbol here, plus arithmetic plus the value of D something. They are not necessarily continuous either horizontally or vertically. I'm picking them from different places. I can even pick them from different worksheets. This is possible. Then I will have to make reference to the specific cells by selecting those cells for this work to be done. However, if for any reason my interest is a range of continuous cells, so for example, I want the summation to be just straight for this, I don't necessarily have to come and select this cell plus this cell plus this cell plus that cell. Another way of getting this thing done is introduce the equal to symbol and then call on the AutoSum function, which is called sum, and then of course open the brackets and then select the range of cells. So you select from cell B5 through to cell E5. See how it is described: B5 colon E5, meaning add the sum of values stored in cell B5 all the way to cell E5. This is what you are literally telling Excel to do. And then once you hit the return key, it will also give you the same answer. You don't want to play this one back again if you want to catch it once more. Now, if I want the total of all the postings in all these other cities to appear here, we can use the autofill option once again without necessarily coming here to indicate equal to sign, typing some open bracket and then selecting all that range of values. All we need to do is just like we did for the quarter by selecting the 1 and then clicking on the small arrow button. As you can see from here, we can select this one as well. Hold the small button down there and drag it all the way to the last. I think we have Vancouver, the last one. And what you see here, for example, in Vancouver, this is the total of all the values here. This is the total of all the values here. 261 is the total of all these values here. 627 is the total of all these values here. It did not copy 624 for us, just like it did not copy quarter 1 into quarter 2 into quarter 3, quarter 4 for us. It was intelligent enough to realize that, okay, you have copied the operation here. As you have pasted it here, you want this to automatically adjust. And so where there is B5, choose B6 because that's the next one. Where there is C5, go to C6. Where there is D5, go to D6 in that order. So where there is D5, go to B, say where there is B5, this time on this last row, go to B13 in that order. So when you double click on it, you see from B13 to E13. When you double click here to B12 to E12, which reflects the row on which all of these values are sitting. I hope this makes a little bit of sense. I don't know. Okay, but try your best and let me know. Let me know if you still have some constraints in catching up with some of these things. Okay. So that is about the formulas and some of the things that we can do about it. Now, let me seize this opportunity to also explain here. Like I mentioned, it was intelligent to realize that there need to be some adjustments. This form of adjustment is what we refer to as relative cell referencing. Relative. This is English vocabulary. Relative to the situation, it is adjusting. It is not entirely true all the time. Yes, we are adding a sum of values. We are adding a number of figures today. But tomorrow, if the dollar against the CD changes, we'll have to add the values of the changes that have happened. Common thing here is we are adding, say, 5 same numbers today and adding another 5 same numbers tomorrow. But tomorrow's 5 numbers may not be today's 5 numbers. The changes is as a result of relativity. I hope I'm speaking English. Relative cell referencing. So the values here are adjusted according to their relative corresponding values. Their relative corresponding values. How about if I don't care? I really don't want it to give me the sum of these values, but rather I want this 624 to repeat itself across here. Mind you, even if you come and copy cell 624 and you come and paste it here, it will still turn to 372 because by default this is relative referencing. But if you need this to be the same value, 624, 624, such that if 624, any value is adjusted here, for example, I change this one to 200, then here must also change to 681. Here must change to 681. This one must change to 681. Then I have to do what we refer to as absolute referencing. Absolute referencing. And that comes with a symbol we call the ampersand. Ampersand. Okay, so let me demonstrate this for you. Now, if I want this cell, copied value, the output of the sum of these cells to be the same here, and the same here, the same here, the same here, such that even if I change a value here, to change here as well, and it will not adjust to its corresponding row values, then I will have to introduce the ampersand symbol against the particular cell I want to consider absolute, or I want to make absolute. Absolute means no changes, nothing. It has to be exactly that. So I introduce the ampersand, not ampersand. We use the dollar symbol. We introduce the dollar symbol, my bad. We introduce the dollar symbol. So you press, you indicate the dollar symbol in front of B and add the same thing in front of 5. Then you go to cell E5, introduce the dollar symbol, and then add dollar symbol 5. So we are saying that do not change the values from cell B5. I'm making reference to the address of the cell. All the way to cell E5. Maintain the values there along with the operation and use it as such. So wherever I paste it, don't change relatively, right? So let's test this, for example. So I copy 681, I come and paste it here, I have 681, I come and paste it here, I have 681. If I double click in there, it does not select or highlight the relative cells, but rather it still makes reference to the source row from which this computation happened. Another advantage here is that if I want to change this 135, for example, to 800, I get all those cells also changing accordingly because of this absolute referencing. Absolute referencing. Please take note of this. In an event where you have need for some of these things, you will decide for yourself. Okay, so that is for your information. Please take notice of that. Take notice of that. There are a host of things that we can do. Basically, if you recall what I did the first time, I indicated the equal to symbol. Let me just repeat that here. I just indicated the equal to symbol. Sorry. Indicate the equal to symbol here. Select one cell. Add the other cell. Sorry. Add another cell. And add another cell. And it gave me the answer 372. Now watch this. If you double click on this, you see sum here. When you double click on this, you see no sum here. It's only just adding values of a cell. This you see here is a function. We call this a function. So we can find the average of some numbers. We can find the maximum of a set of numbers. We can find the minimum of a set of numbers. The same, we can find the sum of a set of numbers. Now, if you call out the function say sum, then your argument or the parameters you are passing to the function to give you the resultant outcome for has to be your argument, what we refer to as your argument. But if you are writing just a raw formula, then you can proceed to just write your equal to symbol, make reference to the cells, and produce them accordingly. Nothing stops you from achieving any of these things. Is that okay? We can have a series of other functions like average, for example. If you want the average of all these range of values over here, for example, I can introduce an equal to symbol here and then request for an average, as you can see as a function. Average of what? Average of which set of values? You will be doing descriptive statistics in one form or the other. So I just go and select the range of values. I want the average of these values. I didn't even include this one. Let me just start from the top to the last value. So it will make reference to cell F9 all the way to F13. And when I hit the return key, it tells me that the average value is 659. I can equally do the same and then find the maximum value. Equal to maximum value of all these figures here. So it will tell me the maximum value. And we already obviously know what the answer will be. And then when we want the minimum value, we introduce the equal to symbol. And these are all functions. So minimum value, I introduce the open and close bracket, select the range of cells, and then hit the return key to tell me that my minimum value is 261, and it will never lie. I hope this process have been useful. So we have literally seen how the sum function works. We've seen how the sum function works. Other things I can draw your attention to is that we can reuse formulas that we have created when necessary, as you saw me do with the values here. So this was a formula that resulted into this value. When we copy this cell, we are literally copying the formula, and when we paste it here, it automatically adjusts the relative values here. That is another way of copying formulas. So that's one thing we need to take notice of. Yes, so you can play around with all of these features, and it will make life a lot more easier for you. The experience is very important. We can have situations where we have a complex formula which we want certain things to turn in certain forms depending on the look and feel of certain figures. We'll talk more about that, most of those in other future future lessons, and I hope it makes a whole lot of sense. So basically, this is it. Now you heard me make mention of. So I've spoken about the formulas in general. I've demonstrated the formula. I've showed you a couple of functions and how they work and pan out. I made mention of the page break layout. I made mention of the page break layout earlier on. I'll make this probably the last item we'll look at. I made mention of the page break layout earlier on. So we should be able to do something similar by way of demonstration. Right at the beginning, I made mention of this page layout. Okay, so fundamentally what we are trying to do is to be able to have a feel of what our final printout of the work should look like. It was a blank Excel sheet the first time, but now we have some content in there. So when I switch to page break preview, follow the cursor here, it's directly behind my body. If you have your PC, you can see it. Maybe I should move my neck a little bit or something. Still, I think I've covered it. Right, so once you select it, you notice that it shows you the region of text or input section of your Excel sheet, which can be printed or fall in the print view. The normal view will not literally tell you that. If you go to the page layout view and you zoom out, you get to see how your data will be broken down accordingly. And you can go ahead and print your work. So there's nothing really complicated about what we've discussed so far. Once you are satisfied, go to your print button, go to your backstage view, by clicking the file, go to print, select your printer from the printer section, define how you want your work to look like. You may see that I don't have the cells around them in terms of boxes. If you, for any reason, you have a need for that, you have options. You can come and select your region of text, switching back to normal, and then place a border around them. And then we have lots of options of borders you can choose from, so that this time when you go ahead to print, you see something available for you. Great. So this has been the journey so far. I wish this introduction is worth it, and it will lead us into greater heights as we journey through this Microsoft Excel. See you in the next video.